Hey, and welcome to this week's weekly vlog, week in the life of a PhD student, all of that jazz. I realised that the content I made before was extremely long, so I'm trying to keep it short, but this feels like a way more formal introduction. It's currently Wednesday, so here is everything that happened before.
Hi, Éireann.
Hey, morning. I think I just didn't have as much time as I thought I had, and I can kind of feel myself slipping into the really busy, chaotic periods. And although I know that's not how things will be for a long time, I think if there are 2 days where I feel like I'm not in control of my time or something like that, I kind of think, oh no, this is how everything will be forever. I'm getting clearer with them, but I think and again, I think this is maybe somewhat kind of anxious tendencies. I think I'm so scared of losing something. So I'm not sure sometimes whether to put. We had a chat basically about using the not function as a term, because when I do talk about mobility, it tends to raise international mobility as a result. But they were just like, we wouldn't recommend using the not function. It can get quite dangerous. Today is Tuesday. I have a meeting with our DTP coordinator, so that's the doctoral training partnership, because I'm looking to apply to a specific kind of funding grant. So I'm just going to run some of my ideas by her before I apply or before I decide to apply. So that is what's happening this morning, and then I'll probably co-work with a friend and continue on this systematic review basically. I think for me, I think I wanted to kind of, I guess, use this as an opportunity to kind of talk through some ideas, work out how feasible it is to make an application at all, and then also think about whether there is scope for the DTP to be involved, more so just so it feels like a more collaborative thing. I think a concern I have is, one, this isn't necessarily just public engagement of my PhD, it's public engagement of my general area of focus, kind of like my master's work, but at doctoral level instead, which is why I thought the DTP would be a good partnership. But then I'm also nervous about the difference between public engagement as like a how do we engage policymakers versus how do we just represent academic work, because my fear is they'll say this is inappropriate for this space and this should be done in widening participation or this, but it's not necessarily a campaign, if that makes sense. Cool. So today or at least last night, I was feeling like, okay, I really need to get my mojo back. I watched a few YouTube videos, particularly where people were resetting and restarting. And I think the last few days, both last week and yesterday, I've just become quite distracted and not necessarily done as much as I want to do. So I feel like I've got today and tomorrow to really try and get back on track, to try and do as much of this searching and downloading as I can. Sorry, that light is gone. So today I'm going to, the word of the day is focus. I'm just going to focus on the systematic review. I'm going to put a lot of energy into it. I'm going to try and have a lot more structure to take breaks, so that every time I am doing the work, I feel a lot more kind of alert and energized, rather than becoming extremely sleepy and just feeling like I'm drifting off mentally. So yeah, wish me luck. I think I would like to, at some point, maybe this weekend, do a video checking in on the summer contract I made myself, the plans I set, the goals I set, because I have learned that I'm not actually an organized person. I am goal orientated, if that's the right way of saying it. Like, I meet my goals, but I'm kind of meeting them in a very chaotic way. And I think it would be really good to do some sort of check-in, to go back to that, to see what still matters, what doesn't matter, what I want to focus on, because August is flying. Like, it's bank holiday Monday next week. pretty much the end of the month. And I'm going away for a week in September, which takes up quite a chunk of time. Plus, as we kind of move back into term, there's going to be a lot of fresher stuff. And I'm not running the whole thing, but there are definitely things I'm helping with that will take quite a bit of time and energy. So I want to feel like I've paced myself. I want to feel like I'm going back to term refreshed, but I also want to feel like I've actually achieved my goals. For today, more generally, I am not going to the gym today. I went Monday and Tuesday, and then I'm going boxing later tonight. So I feel like I have a bit more time this morning than usual. I think I'm going to work in blocks. My first block normally starts at about 10, but it's now 8:30. So if I can do one before that, and then kind of follow my routine from then, I will hopefully, if I can stay focused, get quite a bit done. Excel has crashed because me doing a VLOOKUP was just way too much. So I'm going to try and restart my computer. So I don't really know, but it's working now, so it's okay. And even though it took a long time to do that, it saves me even longer work doing it all manually. So it's all good. But yeah, I'm going to save it and then make a sheet where the formula's removed so I don't mess it up. Just to explain the systematic review more generally, I am looking up papers using a range of research strings via these different search engines. Recently, I have used two very broad search engines. These are Scopus and Web of Science. They are broad in that they look beyond education papers and they go into any field that meets the kind of research strings or research terms you've used. Because they are so big, they have given me over 1,000 papers each. I definitely could be a lot more strict with my terms and be a lot more exclusive, but I'm a bit of a mess. So I've gone with those big terms. What I'm aware of is that those two search engines cross-reference each other. They look into some of the same places and therefore get some of the same papers. So by doing a VLOOKUP, I can cross-reference the two searches I've done and see which ones are the same. And that means when I had already done some filtering for Web of Science and said this is relevant, this is not relevant, go away, I could just, in my Scopus search, basically ask Excel to check if I'd already looked at this paper via my Web of Science search, and finally been able to do the VLOOKUP, because for some reason there's always a bloody problem. And in doing it, I have found that how many, I've lost it already, something like 500 plus papers were kind of shared by both search engines, so they had those matches. That still means there are others that I need to filter through and look through for this Scopus search. So there's 1,600 in total, which is more than it should be, but again, I could do a better job of being stricter with my terms and excluding a lot more, but I'm just anxious and double checking everything. But now I know over 500 of those I've sorted at some other point. I can just speed through the rest. I say speed through, it's taking a while. So it's almost 12 o'clock. I've spent this morning doing some filtering plus doing this VLOOKUP, which took longer than I wish it did, but that's fine. I'm going to make sure that today I get through this Scopus stuff. Like I will have done my first initial filter for everything by the end of the day. I had lunch, I just forgot to record it, and then I did some co-working with Tyra and Zena, which was really nice. It's about like 5:30, so I finished later than I normally would, but I think it's been worth it. I do feel much more calm than I did yesterday and the day before and last week. Happy Friday. I'm going to walk to the train station. It's about 8 o'clock. Get my train. I'm getting 2 trains. And yeah, off to meet an academic I really look up to, then to meet a friend, then to go to his wedding. So I've got to change of clothes in my bag. and yeah, anything else that I need. I decided I'm not going to take my laptop today. I'm not going to make it a day where I try to work and lug around like a huge computer. So instead I just have 2 books, one non-fiction but fun and one fiction and fun. So yeah, I will record the day as we go through it. Okay, found a cheeky spot where I can hopefully record myself and I can hopefully be heard. But I'm just walking to Euston. I'm going to meet my friend Abigail. What I was originally going to do was work in the British Library until she was ready, but as I was walking there, she called and said she was on her way. So I'm heading there now. The meeting I had was really, really lovely. I essentially met this professor who I really look up to, who, yeah, I just admire her work so much, and I was in contact with her when I applied for my master's, and then I saw her recently at this conference, so we got back in touch, and I asked if, because I was in London, it'd be okay to meet, which is something she offered when I saw her, which is incredibly kind. So yeah, we just had a lovely, lovely chat over coffee, and essentially we discussed academia, the value of staying, the idea of doing activism alongside of a PhD. And she said, you know, she's been an activist her whole life, but during her PhD she just did not have the ability to do so. We also spoke about the value of doing that work, or the value of doing a PhD, and she essentially shared that basically it's really important for working class people in particular to take the time out to do that academic research, and she said that enabled her to speak better about the issue, to feel confident when kind of presenting and talking on these things, and just really made a difference for her confidence and her ability to communicate these really complex processes of structural classism, racism, etc. So that was really nice. I'm obviously bit rushed and a bit uncomfortable because I'm just recording on the street, but it was extremely wholesome, and you know, it was a conversation where like we could laugh, we could talk about all the things we hate. I was incredibly pessimistic, which I think is normal in this field, but she was just so kind, so welcoming, so reassuring, really honest about the value of being in these spaces, of challenging these spaces, and the importance of like an increasing number of voices challenging very neoliberal ideas. So yeah, I had a really nice morning basically. I'm really grateful for that. I'm going to go meet Abigail now. I'm going to see if she wants to get some lunch or maybe get a drink, and yeah, I'm going to continue with my refreshing day in London basically. I'm actually kind of scared because like you were like really upside down. Yeah. Okay. It's gonna get all the way around. It feels so strange. That's like a really good photo.
Yeah. If you just need, like, it feels like you've got a fall, but you know.
I was laughing. I did somebody.
Me too. I just have to like my little kind of massive house. I'm just like in one of the rooms. Just. Oh.